Stay tuned, everybody, because it's time for the Playin on Music Row podcast with your host, Fran. Heard each week on this station. And now, here's Fran.
Well, welcome, everyone. Well, today we have Robert Abernathy playing on Music Row with us, and he's not just a guest, he's also a neighbor in a ways, of mine. And I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with us today, Robert.
Thank you. I'm glad we finally were able to meet up and pull it off.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Well, early on, you won the Nashville Starbound competition. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that adventure and how it helped you?
That was that was in 1995. So that's been a while. I don't know how many years ago that's been. It's been a long time ago. I was at that time. I was I was with a gospel group, and there were five of us, and we did a lot of acapella stuff back in those days, and recorded out at Mid South Recording in Glencoe, Alabama, with Gold City. Had a studio out there, and anyway, we just finished up a recording, and we saw this ad for the Nashville Starbound competition, which in 1995, that was a big deal because it was held at the Grand Ole Opry House, and we were like, oh, we need to do that. So we worked up in a version of I'll Fly Away, headed out there, and it was chock full of every country band artist you could think of. And we got up there, and we just did our acapella version. Everybody was clapping, stood to their feet when we got done, and like, this is great. And then they informed us the next day that we had won first place. And it was there. I mean, there was some serious competition. It was, and I think at the time, it was one of the larger talent competitions. And for us, I mean, we were just fresh out of high school, at the time. So that was a really big deal for us. We ended up, as a result of it, recorded at several different times, had a producer that put some songs out, made it out on the radio, and that was early on. And then that kind of faded out over time. We all ended up having real jobs in school and kids and everything else. It kind of preoccupies your time when you're a musician, especially early on. So, but that was very exciting.
I like the idea. You said real jobs.
I know. It's so true. I got a real job right now as we speak.
Well, now you're back in the game, and you released a song titled "Big Bass Problem." Can you give us a little bit of a background on that song? Because we're going to play the video, so maybe you can give us a little bit of a background on it.
Yeah. So my son's in the military, and he was on assignment in it was a conversation that comes up. And keep in mind, as a songwriter, I get stuff all the time. People send me ideas like, here's a hook, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good. But he sent me one that said, just Big Bass Problem. That was it. And so I responded to him, what are you talking about? I said, I just want to send you the song idea. So I sat down, and I couldn't really come up with anything. And then, a couple months later, I finally revisited that song idea like I always do. And lo and behold, it turned into a pretty cool little idea, a pretty cool song. And I thought, man, what if we got to do a nice video with this as well? So I signed with a record label. That's the first song they wanted to put out with a record label. So there you have it. It's we tried to make it funny, just a nice, fun song, and that's how it ended up. I think. I hope we translated that pretty well.
Okay, that sure did. Okay, we're going to listen now to Big Bass Problem by Robert Abernathy.
Hey Siri, text my wife, please.
What do you want to say?
I called in sick, but I feel so alive. This lake was worth a 2-hour drive. There's not a cloud hanging round in the sky. In this boat, there's not a happier guy. There's just something about being alone. It makes me never want to answer my phone. Hey, hey, I've got a big bass problem. I don't know what to do. Causing fish have been hitting all afternoon. I probably should have called, hoping you'd understand. It's mighty hard to dial you up with this reel in my head. I lost track of time. go with a therapist or call a Bass Pro. One will tell me that I'm a fool, the other how to untangle a spool. Well, 12 steps won't take this away, and I've still got this bucket of bait. Hey, hey, I've got a big bass problem, I don't know what to do, 'cause if this had been hitting all afternoon, I probably should have called, hoping you'd understand. It's mighty hard to dial you up with this reel in my hand. Lost track of time the minute I let short, and I'm fresh out of excuses I ain't used before. Left a few fish down at the bottom, be a few more beers till I call them. I've got a big bass problem. Hey, hey. Everybody knows I've got a big bass problem. I don't know what to do, 'cause if fish had been hitting all afternoon, I probably should have called, hoping you'd understand. It's mighty hard to dial you up with this reel in my hand. I lost track of time the minute I let shore, and I'm fresh out of excuses I ain't used before. Left a few fish down at the bottom, be a few more beers till I call them. I've got a big bass problem.
Send it.
Send that message.
Done.
There you have it. Robert Abernathy with Big Bass Problem. Well, those are your musicians in the band, or they would like?
Yeah.
They are. Okay.
Those are all my guys. So when we decided to do the video, I definitely want to incorporate them into it, just their personalities, just what's a fun group of fellas, you know. And so we were able to get the store for the day at Mark's Outdoors. It was on a Sunday, and they allowed us just to have full reign in there, and we played like a bunch of kids is what we did. It was just one scene after the other. It was like, hey, let's try this. And then the big bass. I don't know if you saw that, remember that scene, but that was the bass that I tried to take out of there. That was kind of spontaneous. Like, what if you took a bass off the wall and tried to steal it? I thought that would be a big bass problem.
You know,
So, and then one of the police officers said, what if I tased you? So, so that's how we ended up with the taser scene. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
well, that's great. Yeah, it seemed like it was. Where exactly is the store located?
It's in Birmingham, Alabama. Mark's Outdoors in Birmingham, Alabama. Vestavia.
Okay. Well, okay, that's great. Well, can you give me a little bit of an idea of what writers and artists have influenced you?
Well, it's funny you should say that. As far as songwriters, I'm actually reading a book right now called Talking with the Skies by Amy Mayo. And Amy Mayo is from the same town that I'm from in Gadsden, Alabama. And she wrote Amazed by Lonesome. It was one of her first really big hits. And since then, Amy Mayo has written songs for Tim McGraw, Taylor Swift. I mean, you name it, she's written songs for all these artists. And so that's always been kind of an inspiration to me. When I started out years ago, I made frequent trips up to Broadway in Nashville downtown to hear the different songwriters or different bands play, and then I go to writers' rounds, which is an amazing thing to go see if you've ever been to Nashville and listening to the great songwriters up and down through there. And so that's always been inspirational to me. I think probably the biggest inspiration I would say is the songwriters that write at writers' rounds, because to me, those songs are most of the time when you go there, I hear nuggets and ideas and songs from these people that better than the ones you hear on the radio. And the reason is because the ones you hear on the radio, they're not bad songs for the most part, but they're written for the artist with a hit songwriter. And some of the ideas, some of these struggling songwriters that are, that never really make it, they just haven't found the right person, the right publisher at the right time. And it's unfortunate because there are so many great songs out there that people just don't get to hear. That's where you find the really good ones, though, is these writers' rounds in Nashville. And then as far as artists go, I've always been a big fan of Vince Gill. I love his voice, and early on in my career, I tried to mimic his voice when I started to sing, and the same with Colin Ray, and then now Keith Urban. I'm a huge Keith Urban fan, and those are the Eagles. I grew up with the Eagles in Alabama. Those are artists and bands are what I've always gravitated toward.
Okay. Well, how would you describe your sound, though?
That's a good question. I've kind of struggled to even, I've even asked people before, how would you, because as an artist, it's kind of hard to really pinpoint it because, it's such an intrinsic thing when you play songs and you write things and you don't really realize exactly where you fall sometimes. Yeah, I would say I probably fall in the spectrum somewhere around, I would say probably more like a Keith Urban maybe sound. I like that, a lot of the songs like Somebody Like You, that Four on the Floor beat that he does on Somebody Like You, or Gone By, or Days Go By, or some of those songs that before I have a lot of those songs, and so I find myself with an acoustic guitar writing songs to those kind of melodies, but the lyrics come from and ideas come from I don't know, try to make it my songs a little more on the light side of things. Like Big Bass Problem, for example, is just kind of a stab at somebody that has an obsession with something. And I tried to make it fun, but most of my songs deal with something on the lighthearted side of things. So I'd say, on that end, would probably something like a Luke Bryan, maybe. That sometimes the songs are serious, but you find him poking fun at himself a little bit here and there, and so I would say, somewhere across between Keith Urban's style with Luke Bryan's content would be probably pretty close to it.
Okay. Well, you have a song and it's titled "You Can't Have My Boat."
There you go. There's another
can you
one,
give us a little bit? I know that's going to be one coming out too. Can you maybe give us an idea of what that song's about? Because we're actually going to play it.
That song came about from my students. I'm a school teacher too, and so my students gave me the idea for that song in class one day. Said, "What about You Can't Have My Boat, Mr. Abernathy?" And I thought, well, okay, I'll write it down, but I have no idea what that's going to be about, until they harassed me for about 2 solid weeks. And so I finally sat down and wrote a song about a boat and a divorce. So there you go. You can't have my boat.
Okay. Okay. Here is Robert Abernathy with "You Can't Have My Boat."
I can't say if it's my fault, but it just might be. There's a pretty good chance I'm everything you say about me. So I'll own it all, take it on the cheek, and slowly walk away. I'm not sure what you're thinking. There's one thing you can't take. You can have my John Deere on my beer, every love song that I wrote. Take them to the old fire pit with some gas in it, light them up and smoke. You can have my baseball cards, dog in the yard. Hey, you can have my clothes. Take it to the bank, you better have a drink, 'cause you can't have my boat. And I'll go ooh, 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 on the water. Na 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 na. and smoke. You can have my baseball cards, dog in the yard. Hey, you can have my clothes, take it to the bank, better have a drink, 'cause you can't have my boat. And I'll go on the water. Nah, 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 you can't have my boat. And I'll go on the water. Come on in. Nah, 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 you can't have my boat. You can't have my boat.
I like that. Nana, nana, nana. I think that's it. I remember that
Yeah.
from years ago. Now, who were the players on your promotional team that's helping promote your career?
Well, I just signed with a record label, Playin Records. We just entered an agreement with them. We've been on pause here for a little bit since Big Bass Problem, working on a few other side projects to kind of get the ball rolling in a few different directions. HP Promo is the company that we end up hiring for the video promotion. And they've done a great job on that end. And we hired Caden to do some other promotion with different independent radio stations and Caden Gordon, and he's done a great job of sending some of those out as well. So we've used a couple different and then on with Irons Media Group and a few others that with the record label we're about to press forward with a big release here pretty soon.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. You've performed in the past. I mean, maybe performing now too. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of some of the places you've performed and who you've performed with?
Yeah. So I play the past, I guess probably the past 10 years, I played about 3 or 4 shows a week, and that was in the Birmingham area. And then I ended up with signing a deal or working out a deal with Tin Roof to start playing at their venues. And I played at the one in Nashville, Tin Roof in Nashville. I was playing 2 shows a week up there on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Tuesday show was a duo, and then the Friday show was with a band, full band. And that was for about 2 years. And then we took some time off. We moved to Nashville here in July. And now I'm playing there every Saturday at the one on Demumbrian downtown. So I'll play there from 3:30 to 6:30 every Saturday now. And in between doing that, I've got my own show. I play all over the place, but I also have an Eagles tribute band that I play with and an Alabama tribute. And so we just got back this past Sunday. We played a two-night show out there in Steenhatchee, Florida, at a festival. We did Alabama tribute, or the Eagles tribute on Friday night, and Alabama tribute show on Saturday night. So I'm heavily involved in that as well. So I'm playing out quite a bit. Not as much as I was before we moved to Nashville, because we moved to Nashville, the record deal came along, and then we had to kind of shift our focus more on the recording end of things and get things lined up for the big album release that will be coming out probably in the next couple of months.
Okay. Well, but part of your promotion, are you going to be planning on touring in support of your releases?
Yeah, so the release will come first, and what we'll do is we'll try to build a fan base and maybe connect the fan base. We're working on a feature with being a feature with a major artist right now. That's in the works, and so if that deal is inked, then the next thing that we're hoping will happen, we'll start getting on tour with another artist. But it's kind of hard. Right now I could go, as I said, I could have a show scheduled in Lexington, Kentucky, and at a venue, but I'm not going to have, I'm just not going to pull a great crowd until I can build a fan base. And so I can do that in Nashville. I can do that in Birmingham and some other towns in my hometown. I can probably pull a pretty decent crowd, but building that national recognition is a difficult thing to do as an artist. And so we're looking at that, probably a casino tour where you already have a built-in crowd already there to build a fan base. And that's kind of where we are at this stage in the game.
How about opening for artists? Will you be doing that?
Well, That's on the docket. That's one of those things, but we need to get the next full album out before we go there. So we got to make sure that the album is out. We've generated, we've pulled lots of streams, and we're pulling in fans. And then, if I land on a feature with somebody, that will also help in securing that one on tour with another artist. But it's got to be the right artist, and it's got to be the artist that I pull in their fans with my genre of music as well. So we have to be pretty selective about who we end up with.
Okay.
But
Well,
that's
how can our listening audience find out more about Robert Abernathy? And let me preview your music, and things like that.
so they can go to my website. My website is www.robertabernathy.com. I've got on Instagram, I'll post something, every other day or so. Usually I'll post my schedule on there as well. That's at R Abernathy. I'm on Facebook as well, Robert Abernathy Music, at R Abernathy 03. And then on YouTube, I've got lots of different content out there on YouTube. A lot of it's some of it's just playing a guitar, but they can search me on YouTube as well by just searching Robert Abernathy, or my username is at R Abernathy. But I've got lots of content out there and plenty of music on Spotify and Apple Music that's floating around that people can also find as well.
Okay. Well, I think I've asked you a lot of questions, but is there anything that I haven't asked you that you may want to say to the listening audience?
No, I think you probably covered most of it. I appreciate the opportunity to have the interview and introduce myself to different listening audience. And I'm super excited to see how this turns out.
Okay, well, great. Well, I want to thank you, Robert Abernathy, for taking the time and spend with us. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Okay, well, thank you.